Wafflebox presents That Mike Fish Show with tonight's guest, Ethan Johnson. And now, here's your host, Mike Fish. And welcome to That Mike Fish Show. I am Mike Fish on the Wafflebox feed, and I am joined this evening, this morning, this afternoon, whenever you're listening to this podcast, with the main man, Mr. Ethan Johnson, aka FineWine216. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good. Can't complain, won't complain.
So, a little bit of background. So, we're not going to mention any corporations because, damn, those corporations. But me and Ethan used to work together at a company. And I'm going to tell a little funny story about Ethan. So, one day, hey, Ethan was a man who always dressed up looking good. I'm going to say that. I'll give him his props. He always
I don't confirm anything he's about to say. I have no idea what he's talking about. Go ahead.
But he always turned to work looking good. But it was a kind of a casually dressed environment. And then one day, this young man shows up in a full-on suit. Like, he looked dressed up like hell. And so I didn't want to put him out. I didn't want to, call him out. So I pulled him to one side and said, "Hey, Ethan, so you got a job interview or something going on?" And he was like, "No, what? No, I haven't got a job interview. I'm just going out for dinner tonight." I was like, "Oh, okay, fine, whatever." And then like 3 days later, "Hey, I got a new job." I was like, "Oh, I guess that dinner went well."
So that's like 95% right. The only 5% you're missing is that I didn't say I was going to dinner. Because this makes it way more funnier. Because like, who goes to this? I said I was going to like a gala.
That's
later
right.
That night.
Yes.
And I'm like, looking back, and I'm like, why would you say a gala? Like, why? What? But yeah, you're absolutely right. Because you know how that place was. You couldn't say, "Hey, yeah, I'm definitely going to job interview." It'll be the quickest way out before you even know if you got the job. So
you got to play the game.
That's a fact.
Anyway, so before we dive into what you're doing in terms of content creation, let's talk about a little bit of yourself. So obviously we met in New York City. Right. That's where you're based right now, but just kind of a little bit of background. Where you from? Tell the people.
What's your background? For sure. So I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. People who are not from Cleveland, Ohio, they just think Ohio is all the same. And by all the same, I think they just think a bunch of like cornfields and wheat and shit. And it's not. It's a city just like any other city.
Yeah, I'm going to assume Cleveland is very different to Akron.
Yes, but so we claim Akron when we need to. And the reason why is because obviously LeBron James. So, Akron, you could come on over. You could be Cleveland for
special occasions. Akron, you can come in.
Exactly. So, it's a city like anywhere else. We just do things a little bit different. It's Midwest, so it's more similar to like a Chicago or Detroit. The biggest difference between like Cleveland and New York, I would say, is that all of New York is basically a city. Unless you go to like certain parts of Brooklyn or Queens, and you feel like, this is what I felt like my entire time here. If I go out and I come back home to my apartment, I still feel like I'm out. Like I don't really feel like I properly went home. Like Cleveland, right. And like Cleveland, first of all, everything shuts down around 2. And second of all, it's like you leave downtown, which is like the city, and then you go back to your home. Like it's a very much like you're shutting down, you're back in your home situation. It's just like really, really different. But I moved here about 4 or 5 years ago. And basically there weren't a lot of opportunities in Cleveland at all. And my buddy had just got accepted into like Columbia's teacher college, and he's like, "Listen, Ethan, I know you have a lot of potential because I went to school with you. Try New York out. You can live in like my living room." I literally lived in a room, had to be like 7 by like 10. super small room.
Well, it
All
cost you
my
about
clothes were like,
$2,000 in New York.
yeah, right. All my clothes were like in this U-Haul, like paper, like cardboard closet. Yeah, and that was my life for like 2 or 3 months. But like in the first 2 weeks I was here, I got a job. And then the second job I got after that was the job I was working with you. And then after that, I got into banking and then so on and so forth. So that's kind of how I got here. So
not to go too deep in it. So what's inspiring to go back to Cleveland? Is it work related, or is it just, hey, I'm just gonna
I'm
I
not
have
going back to Cleveland. I'm actually going to Dallas. Going to Dallas, Texas.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Is that for work, pleasure, a little bit of both?
A little bit of both, but mostly work. I wasn't necessarily considering moving until the opportunity presented itself. But yeah, this is one of those situations. It's like, yeah, you can't say no. You gotta kind of at least try it out.
Right, gotta get you. Get it. All right. So then,
Yeah.
and so from that, obviously now you have the YouTube channel FineWine216.
Yeah.
So, all right, before we dive into the content that you produce, I'm always fascinated to find out kind of what inspired the start, because you obviously normally fall into two categories. So either one, you're kind of like, hey, I want to create content. Let me work out what my content should be. Found it. Let's go. Or you have I'm really passionate about this. Okay, now I'll create content on it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Which bucket did you kind of fall into in that?
I would definitely say the former. I'll definitely say the first bucket. So pretty much how the inspiration for it, it's almost been like, this is gonna sound very dramatic and philosophical and deep, but like it's been like my whole life. I've always trying to think of like the best way to say this in case somebody finds it. I've always had a problem with like authority. I don't like the concept of a boss. I don't like it. I don't like the fact that like somebody can literally tell you when to wake up, go to sleep, eat, all that. Like that's mind-boggling to me.
And
Makes my
by
skin
that, you
crawl.
mean, I'm assuming, again, because I've digested your content, you're not necessarily saying authority as in a boss, XYZ, but just the narrative of this is how you should do things. This is
Right.
right.
Right. Exactly. So my whole life, I never planned on just having the normal, you're going to work until 60, 65, retire, house, then vacation and do whatever. Like I always am trying to figure out how do you get out of this like rat race? And I was like, well, Ethan, you got to figure out your talent. You got to figure out like what it is that you're both good at and passionate about. And basically the inspiration for Fine Wine 216, I was having a lot of conversations. People would just come to me for advice about random stuff. And I would have these conversations, and it was always a point in the conversation. I was like, how do we get here? This is pretty deep. This is pretty like I didn't know I thought about it like this until I had this conversation. And this is, and not to be selfish, but at some point I was like, this is something that I feel like could help more than just you. Like I think a lot of people are probably dealing with this. So it started with like one or two topics. I would just write it down on my phone. And it got to my point where I would just like have notes and notes and notes and notes and notes in my phone. I'm like, I have to do something with this. I have to say something about this. And then started Fine Wine 216. Initially, I thought it was going to be like a book or something, but I was like, this doesn't make sense for like a book format because it's not like a biography. I guess I could walk you through my life and tell you when I learned each thing, but it's more so, I always say like the first intro episode, I say like, I'm not an expert on anything. I just know what has worked for me. And if it works for you, great. Like, it's almost like I played this video game. I beat this boss. I didn't perfect it, but I knew how to beat it. So like, if this helps you beat it, I'm going to give you advice of how I beat it, you know? So
Yeah.
That's basically how it came about.
And so like it's not unlike some YouTube channels where it's not like I guess there is a cohesive narrative as such, but each episode obviously carries a different topic. So how do you have kind of like a conscious effort of or conscious idea of each episode, or does it kind of come to you on a weekly by week? Like, hey, what am I going to talk about this week? Oh, like, or do you have things in the bank? I guess moving
Right.
forward.
I would say 80-20. It's 80% conscious, 20% it comes when it comes, right? So going back to like the inspiration question, when I made the first video, I'm like, people make life very complicated, and it is. It's a fucking lot, but it all come down to like a couple of things that you have to like worry about. And I was like, okay, well, what do you have to worry about? You have to worry about your relationship. That's not just your romantic relationship. That's your relationship with your family, friends, all of that. You have to worry about, like, yeah, you said earlier, your universe mentality. You have to work. You have to figure that out. Are you going to believe in the universe, God, your spiritual, whatever it is? You have to figure that out. You have to figure out your finances. You have to figure out your health. Um, and you are born a certain race, ethnic background, you're gonna have to fucking deal with that at some point. Um, and that's pretty much it. If you have all those figured out, like that's pretty much life. And also, I'm really into fashion, so I'm gonna throw fashion into it for a couple or a lot of episodes. But that's pretty much how I framed what it is I'm trying to talk about. So on my YouTube channel, I have all of those as playlists: a relationship playlist, a finance playlist, a spiritual playlist, all of those. There's things I want to talk about that I'm like, this doesn't really doesn't fit like the framework. Like I think it would throw people off if I just started talking about sports, for example, because like what does that have to do with anything? But yeah, so it's 80%. I have it mapped out with it falls under all these categories, but then it's 20% something will happen and it's like, man, I gotta talk about this because this is feel really strongly about it. Yeah.
All right, and then in terms of the creation side of things, do you do work on one episode at a time from start to completion, or do you find yourself maybe like filming a little bit or writing a little bit and then kind of, okay, this has got something, but it's not quite ready. I'll come back to that, and then you kind of maybe do something else and then come back to it to finish it, or is it just kind of like no, one at a time?
It's more so one at a time. As you know from doing what you're doing right now, it's more of like a pipeline. So like I have a bunch of videos that I've shot that I haven't edited yet. I have some that I've edited that I haven't posted, and then there's the ones that I've posted. So like I'm working at it on it one at a time because my overall thought process is like I think I'm good right now, but I feel like I just need to get contact out. I just need to produce because one day it's going to be like really, really, really good. But I'm not going to get to the point where I'm really, really good until I keep doing it over and over and over and over again. So like right now, I do it one at a time, but it's just like, okay, shoot it. Let's edit it down between all the takes. Let's do the jump cuts. Let's do the memes, gifs, whatever. Then upload it, connect it to whatever other videos, and then promotion and all of that. But yeah, I'm more so just focused on getting them out.
One thing I always wondered is because obviously throughout your videos, sometimes you'll have like a bit you'll say, and then you'll kind of connect it to where it'll be like a clip from a music video or a clip from a TV show or a movie. Is that all worked out during the writing process, or is that maybe like while you're recording, you're like, oh shit, that reminds me of this?
Right.
Where does that all work in?
Again, it's about like 80-20. And it's funny because I was laughing as you were saying it because my girlfriend had the same exact question. She's like, did you know you were going to put this meme or this GIF exactly at this point? And as I'm writing it, like if you read my notes of what I'm about to say on my videos, be like, what the fuck? Like, even my girlfriend, I read her like the first script of the first episode, and she said, like, what did she say? She's like, I can't wait to see it when it's finished. I kind of got offended. I was like, are you not supporting me? Like, do you not see what I see? And it's like, honestly, you can't see it until it's done. And you're like, oh, now I understand why you put a random SpongeBob meme in, or now I understand why you chose to do a music video or whatever. But I would say 80% of it is as I'm writing it, I'm like, oh, that's funny because it reminds me of this. Let me put that here. But sometimes I'll be in the editing process after I've already filmed and been like, you know, it would be really funny is if I put this right here after I've seen it. So yeah.
And how long does that take? Because I know, do you ever find that maybe like just through the editing, you're like, okay, this is being pretty quick. And then there's like maybe like one clip of something obscure. And you're like,
Sucks.
you end up spending like 2 hours just trying to find this goddamn clip.
Yeah, it's ridiculous because I still haven't learned my lesson. Like even though I'm getting better at editing and I'm getting a little bit quicker, I would say like I always assume what's going to take the longest time is going through all of the takes to get the take that I want and get it all seamless. I'm thinking like it's going to take that. That's going to take the most amount of time. The second amount of time is getting the jump cuts. So like any downtime I cut out. And I think the third amount of time is going to take is doing like the gifs and the memes and all of that. But it's just the opposite. The gifs and memes, I'm always thinking like, oh, I could do this at like 11 o'clock at night. I'll be done by midnight because it's super fast. And it's not, because you'll exactly what you said. You'll be stuck on one clip. And it's funny how your mind works. Like you will remember something. Like I remember on this one episode, it happened just like this. Let me just go back to this episode and it's completely different. And it's like,
or I've had the same thing where in my head, I can remember this scene. And like, that's what I'm thinking of. But for the life of me,
I can't find it.
Or I can't even remember the show that it was on. But I remember the scene. I can't remember. And so I just end up just typing random words I'm trying to think. And it's like, oh, horrible. Yeah. In terms of the stories, I guess, of the content. Well, gee, that's a horrible word. The word am I looking of? The subjects, I guess, of the videos.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, again, similar to earlier question, do you have these mapped out, or are these things that you're kind of passionate about and you kind of or are you now, because you're about what, 20 plus videos deep?
20. Yeah. I just did my last, well, this Sunday will be my 20th video.
So how are you now kind of coming to the point where like, okay, now I need to think of things to talk about? Are you running out of the bank of ideas, or are you still working through your passions, I guess?
I still have, I'm still going through the same original list I had when I first started the idea of even doing anything. So I still have topics from there, but life keeps happening. Like I just visited Dallas this last weekend to see like apartments and stuff. And something happened with one of my friends, and I'm like, I gotta talk about this because I'm tired of dealing with this shit. Like, so I would say it's more, to your point, it's more leaning towards new content, like stuff I haven't. It's not old, it's not anything, but it's still, I haven't run out of things to talk about. But also, I'm more so thinking of a mindset of like, you know what, I've kind of killed fashion for the last 5 episodes. I need to do something with religion, or like,
I don't want shelf for now.
Right. Or like, I've done a lot of religion. I don't think I want people to think this is like just a Christian channel. Let me do something. You see what I mean? So like, I try to sparse it out so that people don't ever get the idea that I'm a Christian blogger, a fashion blogger, a fitness blogger. Like, no, it's more so like I'm a personality just sharing my opinion. That's it.
Now, I mean, none of your videos have been overly, I don't want to say negative, because you've always seen like kind of like a positive spin on things. Like, I've seen there's been like a couple of things like this. I saw, who was it? Was it The Game, when he said something?
Yeah, that was crazy.
And he was like, "Oh, so it's not necessarily like a negative, but something." But do you find now with the platform that you've created for yourself that in a weird way you're able to kind of look at negatives in a positive way, almost like, this sucks, awesome, I can do a video about this, like almost like turning a negative into a positive?
Yes.
Finding for you that?
Yeah, but I'm not, I don't know what to put on it. Like, I'm not mature enough to say that like if it sucks, it sucks. And I'm not going to be able to make it seem like it doesn't. For everything that I'm able to put a spin on it, like I have to personally have had life spin it around for me, if that makes sense. Like if I
Hmm.
talk about how like every wrong turn, like I say this in a couple of my videos, like every wrong turn, there's no such thing as like a wrong turn or a wrong choice or anything. Like it's putting you exactly where you need to be. If you never made that wrong decision, you would have never been somewhere else making a good decision, or you never would have learned, or like it's no such thing as a bad choice. So, but like I literally believe that. I've seen that happen. But like if I was in a very fucked up bad decision, I wouldn't be like, yeah, this is a bad decision, but let me try to paint it like it's great. Like, no, I would be pissed. So, yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, right.
All right. I'm going to splice in the commercial right now. So we'll be back after this break. Hey, you. Yes, you. Was you thinking of having that beer? But my friend, it's only 10 a.m. Won't everyone judge you for drinking this early? Don't worry, we've got just the thing to help you. Your very own Waffle Box mug. And now, everyone will just think you're drinking coffee, so you can enjoy your morning beer judgment-free. Go to wafflemerch.com to get yours today. And then we're back. Anyway,
Okay, cool.
So one of the topics that you did cover, which really kind of hit me, was that something that I've been very passionate about. So I want to kind of divulge, and we're going to have some kind of party now where we're just going to agree with each other and celebrate each other. It's going to be really awesome content. But where you was talking about like old-fashioned ideals, where people still, for some reason, judge themselves by it. Like I think you've covered it a couple of times, but one of the main things was with that the game proposal, where like the outdated relationship tropes and shit like that. But like I've noticed, like lots of my friends, I'm not going to name anyone because in case they're watching or listening, but how you can see that they're doing well for themselves,
Right.
but for some reason they feel like, oh, what? No, but by this point I should have been married by this point, and by this point I should own a house. By this point I should have a child, and because I haven't done all that by a certain age, I'm a failure. And then like they just crush themselves. Like I don't know what the deep question is. Like I don't know, it's like why are we in that situation? But almost yeah. Do you think is it still kind of like a societal thing where it's out there, or do you think at this point it's the old-fashioned family members still kind of ingraining that kind of thing? Like where do you think that comes from? Like, why?
I think it's a combination of a lot of different factors. Two of them you definitely named. I think family is a huge thing, even if you're not, because I don't know, there's always like an old running joke that every son's mom is like waiting on him to have a kid, like, you know. But even if your mom isn't like that, she's just in a happy marriage and you have siblings and whatever, you grow up with a great family, you're gonna end up putting pressure on yourself to attain the same success that your mom and dad had, if that makes sense. So I definitely think family plays a part into it, but I also feel like social media, I know this is not the first time you've heard this theory, but like social media is a highlight reel. So if you see everyone, like even now, I literally thought to myself the other day, I'm like, am I crazy, or is like everybody getting married and having a baby right now? Like it's kind of insane. But like I think it's both. I think it's society's old fashioned, like a man is supposed to do this, a man is supposed to do that, or you're supposed to do a certain thing by a certain age, which is crazy because one of the things I talk about in the video is like the factors aren't the same for those ideals as they are now. The people who, like, let's just say buying a house, for example. Well, first of all, if we're going to talk about right now, literally right now, today, it's a seller's market. It's not a buyer's market. So you can relax. The second thing is like the generation right before us, or even before them, they didn't have to deal with, I don't know, $30,000 to $50,000 in college debt. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot easier to buy a house, and B, you can support a whole household on one income. You can do that today too, but you're gonna have to be like a fucking investment banker or something. Like you're not gonna have a regular job and
Well, yeah, obviously it depends as well geographically where you are, but I mean
exactly that as well. So it's kind of like,
but yeah, like out in New York, if you're gonna be a one person household, you need to be at least making like 120, 130. You need to be making a lot of money.
Right.
Which back in the day, definitely not the case. Like, I mean, I'm not sorry I didn't jump in, but just in the case of point, like my parents, they purchased a 3-bedroom massive house with a massive backyard for £100,000. Like, you would not get anywhere near that, even with inflation and all that. No, that's not happening. You're going to be paying close to $1 million for that now.
Right.
It's not comparative at all.
Right. It's almost like how people want to have the GOAT debate about like basketball, who's the greatest basketball player of all time. And like, it's kind of unfair because like the rules that LeBron is playing with is not the rules that Michael Jordan played with. It's not the rules that Wilt Chamberlain played with. It's not you can't compare.
The game's changed.
Right. Exactly.
Like literally, even Shaquille O'Neal, if he was in his prime, if he played today, I don't think he'd be anywhere close to putting up what he did.
You have to shoot. You can't just be a dominant big. So like, yeah, you can't. We can get down a rabbit hole of basketball, but yeah, you can't compare what your situation is to your parents' situation, even if you make the same dollar for dollar, because it's not the same time at all. So yeah, I think, but to answer your question, definitely think you're still thinking about the old societal norms without thinking about reality of where we are now. You're thinking about your parents, and then you have social media making you feel like a piece of shit every day. I feel like those 3 things are why people feel pressured to achieve certain things.
Yeah, I don't care, because like, I always tell people that, like, for example, like Instagram as an example, I always call that it's like the sports center of social media. You're only getting the good highlights. You're only getting the top. You're not getting, because no one's posting a picture of them opening up their bills. No one's upset when oh hey, me and my husband arguing. Woo, like, no one's putting that. They're just putting the good stuff on there. So all you see is consume is the good shit. So you're like, oh geez, they're having so much better time than I am. And it's evil.
It is. And I think
that's a philosophical question though. Is social media evil, or is it just being used wrong?
I think that,
or perceived wrong, or you're looking at it wrong.
I think the problem is that human beings, we just naturally, has nothing to do with your morality. It has nothing to do with your principles. You could be a saint, you could be, a demon, but like you naturally as a human being compare things to one another, period. If you're the best person in the world and you go grocery shopping, you're going to look at all the apples before you pick the right apple you're going to buy. It has nothing to do with if you're a good person or a bad person. So if you take that same person and you give them social media, which is designed for you to constantly compare yourself to other people, I feel like that's where you run into problems. And I feel like social media is designed on consumerism and capitalism. Like, it's hard to still make money if there's no ideal that you're constantly trying to chase, if that makes sense. So you have to push this Instagram lifestyle so people keep trying to buy things to attain it. That's what I think.
It's the carrot. It's the carrot on the stick for the horse. You're never gonna reach it.
Exactly.
Because I know people who, they're saying, "Oh, you know what? I'd be so much happier if I was earning 100K." And then I'm kind of like, I know you. Even if you was earning 100K, within a couple of weeks, you'd be like, I wish I was earning 110. Like you're never gonna be happy. You just need to work out, where your happy place is, man. Just chill the fuck out.
Yeah, no, I 1,000% agree. I feel like I had a good point to say about Instagram, and I lost it. Oh, me personally, I don't. The only reason I got on Instagram was because of FineWine216, just to market that. Like, I don't like the biggest thing. Everyone, like, I was one of the last people you probably ever know to get on Instagram, and the only reason when everyone asked me like, "Yo, why aren't you on Instagram?" Especially with me dressing nice, whatever. I was like, I don't like the idea.
Little flex there. I like it.
That's what I'm just saying what you said.
Yeah.
I'm just saying what you said.
Since I dressed really good, I thought
But I didn't like the idea of followers. I'm like, why do I have to follow you? Why can't I just be friends with you? Why do I have to constantly be thinking about who's following me, who I'm following, how many followers I have? I don't like the idea that I'm a follower, period. So like,
I should rename it as stalkers.
Right. So it's just
I have 300 stalkers on Instagram.
Exactly. But it's just set up to like kind of fuel kind of the worst parts about human beings, I think. So like, yeah.
But if you do want to go on Instagram, FineWine216, you'll see how dapper Ethan looks.
FineWine216, Instagram, YouTube. Check me out.
He puts the fine in fine wine. That's what I'm saying. I'm good.
I hope you ask me what the meaning is behind fine wine, because everybody thinks it's that, and it's not.
All right. Well, because I assume 216 is Cleveland area code, right? I'm assuming. Okay. So I gathered that. But okay, all right. Let's dive into it. I know because you mentioned it in, I think, your first video. But okay, so those who haven't watched the first video, tell the good people what's the idea behind fine wine.
For sure. So it has nothing to do with what you it has nothing to do with anyone's opinion about what I look like, including my own. It has nothing to do with clothes. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the fact that, ironically, I don't even drink alcohol, fun fact. But what I do know about alcohol is that wine, it takes a while to make. It's not like beer. It's not like anything else. You have to age it. You have to do a lot of things to it to make it. And like with each of the episodes and my topics, like it's not like I woke up one day and I was like, oh, I'm going to talk about the experience of being Black in America. Like I had to live through life, see things a certain way, have life change it. Like it's certain levels of like where I had to go in order to come to the opinion I have on all the topics. It's not just like, oh, this is cool, let me talk about this. It's like, nah, something had to happen, had to go deeper and connect it to something else. So like, same thing with wine. You don't just pour juice. Like you have to make sure the grapes ferment and do all this other stuff in order to make wine. So like, that's why it's fine wine, because I would like to think that my perspective is getting sharper and better with age, just like fine wine.
Beautiful. And how is being Black in America? I heard it's fun. I've heard that's. I tell you what, since I mean, we're not going to go too deep in that because that's could be that's a rabbit hole.
That's going to be like a 10-hour episode, yeah.
But I remember there was, because I'm very like liberal and open in terms of, you know, there are certain things where like I'm aware of, just in case you're listening to this, FYI, and hearing my voice, I am the whitest of white men. Like I look how I sound. But I remember, like sometimes, like, because I have, you know, I talk to friends and how they're living, and sometimes, like, even I kind of have a shitty situation, and I'm guilty of thinking this. So chastise me if you will. But sometimes I have thought, Jesus Christ, and I'm a white guy. If I'm having a shitty situation, imagine what I'm gonna be like. Jesus Christ,
right.
Like America, man, it's not as great as it.
I think it's different because don't take this the wrong way, but you're British. So like, not to comment on, your royal family and all of that, but for the most part, any white Briton that I've met kind of gets it. And to be honest, because it's not just Britain, because I went to Spain and Spain was the same way. Like Spaniards really, really get it. It's like, I don't know, when you are born and raised in America, they push this patriotic thing super hard. And like, I'm gonna be completely honest, I get kind of nervous around white people who are super, super patriotic.
I never
And like,
understood
God
that.
bless America and everything. I'm like, what we have done? Like, you want him to bless us more? Like, this is we kind of have been like Satan spawn on earth. Like, you want him to bless us more. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those things I say in one of my videos. I don't even remember what I was talking about, but I was saying like, it's clear to see something the further you get away from it. So this is gonna be hilarious, but Dave Chappelle has this joke. It's the funniest thing ever. He talks about like how if you're standing too close, if you're standing too close to an elephant, you might think you're looking at a penis or some shit. Like, it just looks like skin and like you have no idea what it is. But if you take several feet back and you look, you're like, wow, this is a beautiful, majestic, powerful animal. But you have to take the steps back to see it. If you're right here, it looks like a bunch of foreskin. But
and gray, like what does Dave Chappelle's penis look like? Jesus.
That's true. That's very true.
You see a doctor.
Right. But I think that's the same thing with America. I feel like when you look at our racial relations, for people who it's hard for them to see the plight, I guess, it's because you're like too close in it.
I mean, not to kind of group everyone into the same boat, but generally, not everyone, but generally, the most patriotic people are the ones that have never left America.
That's very true. That too.
They don't have a passport, but I never understood the whole patriotism thing. Because I find pride is something I'm proud of, something I achieved. I didn't achieve being English. My parents just happened to give birth to me there.
Right.
I had nothing to do with that. So I'm don't get me wrong by saying I'm not proud to be British. I'm not disappointed to be British or ashamed, but I'm also not gonna brag about it. That seems weird.
I think so. The part that I get is like, because I'm not patriotic, but I'm proud to be from Cleveland. So like, it's different because Cleveland has a very specific culture that I feel like has shaped who and how I am like today. And on top of the fact that, again, anybody else who's not from there just thinks like all of Ohio is cornfields. So anything, I almost have like a chip on my shoulder, like, no, I'm really from Cleveland. So I see it from that point, but why I have a problem when it's applied to the whole country is there's no, and I was having a conversation with a guy about this the other day. It's like, the United States doesn't have a culture of its own. Like when you think about Italian culture, you have an image. When you think about anyone's culture, you have it. Like Americans' culture is just what we steal from like other people.
Yeah, America can't have a culture because even if you look at New York City, someone from Staten Island has a very different culture to someone from Queens.
Right. So what are you're proud of? Yeah, it's weird.
And no one's proud of being from Staten Island. No one's ever said that. What's funny is that when we got diving into American culture, what makes me hilarious, if you have to look at history, if you're a history buff, is when I was like moving to America, people from England would be like, oh, white Americans, yada yada yada.
Right.
That's disgusting about, they had the slave trade. It's just all disgusting, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, you aware we kind of invented that? We just had Indian slaves.
You guys do it over. Yeah, exactly.
But I will say, if you kind of look at it at the face of it, the British slave trade was the most British thing ever in terms of we went to them. I was like, no, don't get up. We'll come to you and enslave you at your place.
Right.
Don't trouble yourself.
I think you guys get less flack because like America profited so much from it.
I mean, Britain did all right from it. They did.
Yeah, but this is actually a video I just edited. America loves to brag about how we're the greatest, richest, wealthiest nation, but like we don't talk about how we got there. Like at one point, the cotton industry was like the #1 industry in the world, and we got all of that labor for free. If you have all of the labor from any #1 industry for free, you're gonna end up being the #1 nation. Like that's a huge deal. That's like something you can't sweep under the rug. So like, yeah, slavery was done in other, because people always love to say, well, Africans, you guys enslaved each other as well. It's like, yeah, but you guys built a whole country off of this. Like,
I think America still gets a lot of flack for it. It's because for whatever reason, the country in general is generally almost still in that kind of the denial phase.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, yeah, we did, but let's just talk about it because it doesn't matter anymore. Whereas,
right.
Why you don't want to talk about it? Whereas, like other countries that did it, kind of like, yeah, we did it. That was pretty shit.
Right.
We're not doing it anymore. So that was bad though. But let's move on. Whereas America's kind of like, no, what? No, what?
Right. I think there's a lot of like
black people. See, February. Look, we love it.
Right.
Okay, sorry. Can I just really talk about that? What is up with that? The Black History Month.
Like what is that? Getting a month?
Black History Month. What the fuck? Like again, I'm speaking as a white person, so please tell me I'm wrong. You may. But it just comes to me again. I'm not going to tell black people how to feel about a certain situation because I don't see it.
Right.
But it does seem kind of like as a country, whereas like maybe like black people kind of like, hey, can we just be like recognized as equals in our contributions? And America's kind of like, all year round? We'll give you February. What about February? Is that all right? It's the shortest month, so we can handle that. Like it just seems like
I'll tell you exactly what it feels like. It feels like, and you're gonna understand this so clearly. At the place that we worked at, that shall not be named, you closed however many thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of revenue for us. You can go home an hour early. It's like, okay, like it's not equivalent, and that's not what I asked for. Or it's like you could go home early if you close this. It's like it just feels very, it feels like it's not a real retribution. It's not a real benefit. And it's not, to your point, what you just said, you're not really acknowledging us. You're giving us a month, but there's no benefit to that month. Nothing happens in that month. You just call it Black History Month, but you don't do nothing changes. And it's like, okay, what was the point of this?
It's again, I don't know. It just seems like, did they think it through? Like, so what you're going to say that you're going to recognize what Black Americans have contributed to this country only 1 month a year? Oh, that doesn't make sense.
Right.
Like, did you see where was it? Which was it? Houston, I think, where they start that bus company. Did you see that?
I actually didn't. What happened?
So they started putting these like covers on one chair on the bus as like the Rosa Parks seat. It's like, I get what you're trying to do, but what are you doing?
Right. No, it seems extremely unfair just because, and hope I don't ruffle anyone's feathers who's listening. I honestly don't care. But like, I was thinking about just, again, the concept of American culture. And I'm like, you can't really do anything in America without Black people. You can't. There's no fashion industry without Black people. There's no music industry without Black people. All the inventions that we've
I think that'd be country music. That'd be it.
Right. That's pretty much it. And it's like,
oh, the good stuff.
And to give us 1 month, when you think about everything that we've done, it's kind of like, yeah, You could have used it would have been it's worse. It's worse because I'll tell you exactly why it's worse. We used to be considered like we were used to weren't able to vote, and then it's like, okay, you're considered 1/8 of a vote. And it's like, okay, you give us Black History Month, which is 1 out of 12 months. So
And
it's
the
like
shortest month
1/12
of all
and
the
the
months.
shortest month. So it's like we're 1/12 of the entire picture. It just feels like, I don't know. And it permeates everything. Even today, 2022, we're content creators. The top 10 highest paid TikTokers are all Caucasian. And it's like, where did you get those dances from? What songs are you dancing to? How, like, what is going on? Like, how it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And it's funny because, and not to get down a rabbit hole, but me really being into fashion, it's like, I just think it's so odd once you pay attention, like you get your inspiration from like what you see us doing. Like, I'm not talking about like, I don't know, Zara gets its inspiration. I'm talking about like these big, huge fashion houses, Christian Dior, Louis Vuitton, Versace. Like you literally get your inspiration from what you see us doing. And to their credit, to a lot of them, they give us our credit. But to your point, the country on the whole is going to give us 1 month. You should have never gave us the month. You should have just kept it what it was.
Yeah, because it's almost like we're gonna have
Slap
like,
in the face.
hey, like Thursdays is ginger people are okay day, and then like ginger people are like, wait, what? We weren't okay? What the fuck is
we weren't
doing
we're
that?
not
what
okay
the fuck
Monday
is
through Wednesday or for
like,
Friday, Saturday,
yeah,
Sunday. Yeah, it's crazy.
Why did you bother? But
No.
talking about the music thing, I remember. So I don't know if you knew, but have you ever heard of the MOBO Awards?
No.
So in England, I actually don't know if they, since I moved, I don't know if it's still a thing. I'm sure it is, but they had the MOBO Awards, which was like Music of Black Origin Awards.
Okay.
And obviously, every year with that coming around, you'd always start getting that little murmur of, oh, what if they did music of white origin? People
Right.
upset.
Right.
And I was like, no, they have the Music of White Origin Awards. It's called the Country Music Awards, and it sucks.
Exactly.
Like, shut the fuck.
Exactly. It's ridiculous. And like when I was in school, there was this whole argument about like wet. Like we have BET, Black Entertainment Television, and it's like, what if there was a wet? And it's like that's literally every other channel.
No one wants to watch a wet.
It's literally white entertainment television is every other channel sitcom. Like we just call it Black entertainment, but literally everything else is whitewashed. Every sitcom, every cartoon, it is a lot better now, don't get me wrong, but like back when BT was like coming into being founded, it was like, why can't we have a white entertainment television? And it's like, are you stupid? Like,
yeah, a lot of people don't think like the fact that something, for example, BET was created the problem isn't that BET was created.
Right.
The problem was the fact that BET
was a necessity
needed to be created. The reason BET was created wasn't that, hey, we just want our own channel. Fuck you, whiteys. It was like nothing is being created. I mean, again, I'm too as I am, so I appreciate. But it's like nothing is being created for the black viewer. So they created BET because there was a gap in the market. Absolutely. It wasn't. That's the kind of so. You know,
if it from that perspective, BET should have never picked. You should be ashamed. Not you. I'm saying people who have that argument should be ashamed that BET even has a audience. Because if everything was fair, there would like no one would watch BET. Why is this specifically black? I see black people on every channel.
Yeah, it wouldn't be an audience. Your point, because if everything else was okay,
right?
People would be like, they'd be like, why is that being created? That doesn't make any sense.
Right. You would say that about white entertainment television because you'd be like, okay, every channel.
It's Fox
I can
News.
Watch Seinfeld. I can watch Full House. I can watch Picket. Like I can watch it, but now all of a sudden there's white entertainment television. You would think it's kind of weird. you don't think it's weird because it's like, yo, this is cool. I finally get to see Black people on one channel out of 1,200. Like, yeah.
Wet.
Yeah.
It's Fox News. That's one. Weirdos. Anyway, that was a nice little conversation. Nice little debate. So what has, let's go wrap this, kind of circle back to your content and give the good viewers a little bit of anticipation. So what have we got in the next coming weeks? What kind of subjects have you got in your mind that you're going to be discussing on your YouTube?
For sure. So oddly enough, we talked a lot about race relations just now. Next video I am going to drop tomorrow, actually at 3:30 p.m. is about how,
well, we don't know when this podcast is actually coming out, so
yeah.
I'm
new to this whole thing, but yeah, today,
anyway,
February 13th, 3:30 p.m. it would have been out, but it's about how I honestly don't think racists are bad people.
Ooh.
Yeah, super controversial. So, and
discuss this after we stop recording, because I don't want to ruin your video. But
I was gonna say it right now. I was like, it'd be cool for people to get an insight. But full disclosure, there's a lot of things that I could talk about, but I feel like I'm not saying anything that anybody else has said. So there's a lot of things with like race relations. There's a lot of things with relationships. Oh, you should treat your girlfriend well. Like, that's not, if I don't say anything that I feel like is novel, I'm not gonna really talk about it.
It's like when you're having a baby, when you're pregnant and they show you the videos, don't shake the baby. Yeah, no shit, I wasn't going to anyway.
Why would I shake the fucking baby? But yeah, so I try to make everything something that will not necessarily ruffle someone's feathers, but like spark a conversation. I'm waiting for the day that like somebody comments is like, Ethan, you're a fucking dumbass. What are you talking about? Like, that will actually make me feel good because I got something out of you. But yeah, I mean, this the overall topic, the overall theme behind it is like, I just feel like initially it started off with people thinking that racist, that is, thinking that one group of people that they're superior to one group of people. And because they're superior, they get to subject them to certain treatment, which, again, if you don't get that by now, you're never going to get that. But I think it is morphed into, and I don't even know if this is recent. I think at some point they realize, hey, it's not necessarily these people are lesser than us, but at the end of the day, there's scarce resources. There's not an unlimited supply of resources. So if we can make this division and have these people over here, then we can make it seem like they're lesser and we'll get more resources for ourselves. Regardless of if it's true or not, it's not necessarily an evil thing. It's a capitalist thing. It's a very capitalist thing. You might be listening to this podcast on a smartphone. Where do you think they got the cobalt in your phone to make like the tiny compartments? You have tennis shoes on, sneakers. Where do you feel like they made those sneakers from? Like, there has to be, in order for capitalism to work, it has to be a group of people that are dominated. And I think that's where racism flourishes, is dominating a group of people for profit. So yeah, I don't think it's because, like, before when I was younger, I thought that racist, you're just this bad guy that like Batman or Superman needs to defeat. And it's like, you are bad. It is evil in a sense, but it's not evil in a sense that like you really think that you actually know that if I was granted the same amount of resources as you, not you personally, but a racist or whatever, but you know that if I'm granted the same amount of resources, there's no limit to what I could achieve. So if there's limited amount of resources, why would I give you that opportunity? I would be giving up my power. Yeah.
That's all on the new video available on Feb 13.
3:30 p.m. Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna a little point about how like not all racists are evil. So this is, I mean, from your explanation, I'm going to go on from a different tangent. But I often think is that it's kind of sometimes it's a teachable moment in that
Right.
where I made a point of when I was talking about this. In that, let's just say you have, I don't know, an 8-year-old boy whose older siblings are racist, his parents are racist, his uncle, aunts are racist, his neighbors are racist.
Right.
Are you really going to judge that person for being racist? Of course he's going to be racist because that's all he knows.
Right.
It's what you then do. If someone eventually comes up to you and go, yeah, hey, you know that shit you've been saying, that's actually wrong. And here's why.
Right.
It's what they do from that point on. But sometimes like it's just not all, you know, it sounds hippie-ish, but there's no combat hate with hate. There's this let's try to teach people.
Well, from that perspective, I also feel like no one comes into this world a racist. I think all racism is taught.
Yeah.
I think all discrimination is taught. So you're absolutely right. The only thing I would say is just playing devil's advocate is you can use that argument to justify a lot of different things, like everything actually. Like for example, I always remember this scene from this movie. Like it was super impactful for me. I watched American Sniper, and there's a part in the movie where they show the antagonist of the movie and how he wakes up in the morning, has a regular day, eats dinner with his family, and then he goes on top of his roof and he's sniping the American troopers. And it's like they do it, the way they film it, they show the juxtaposition between the antagonist, who's wherever, Middle East, Afghani, whatever, and then the American sniper. But they show it in a sense that like he's literally doing the same thing in his day that the American sniper, the hero, is doing. Like he's literally protecting his family, fighting for what he believes for. So like it's literally the same thing. So why is this seen as the enemy if it's literally the same thing? So yeah. Oh, but
deep.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, for more of this kind of insightful conversation and thought-provoking thoughts, make sure you head over to YouTube and do a search for FineWine216. Hit that subscribe button, hit that little ding-a-ling bell so you get notifications when he uploads a new video. But typically, what's the your schedule? It's like every Sunday, right? New videos available?
Every Sunday at 3:30 p.m. If you don't see a video and you know me personally, call me because something went very wrong. Like there's nothing.
And we're going to put the number on the screen for everyone. So if you want
to. But yeah, every Sunday at 3:30 p.m. and then
Eastern.
Yeah, Eastern.
Yeah, I still have to get used to that. So many goddamn time zones in this country.
Yeah, and I'm moving to a different one. So yeah, it's an hour behind where I'm going. So
CT, baby. CT, Central Time. But yeah. So yeah, Ethan, thank you very much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. The reason I love doing these is because, you know, it's just getting to know someone a little bit deeper. Obviously, we've known each other. Technically, we've known each other for like 3 years now.
Right.
But this is like probably the most conversation we've had, and it's been very much fun, very enjoyable. Yeah. So make sure if you are watching, listening this. If you are watching us, hit that subscribe button on the Waffle Box YouTube page. If you are listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Audible, iHeartMedia, whatever you're listening to, again, make sure you hit the follow and subscribe button. Tell your friends, family, and your pets to make sure they do the same as well. But from me and Ethan Johnson, FineWine216, thanks very much for listening, and a very good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you. See ya.